Hey, how you doing there again, folks? Me again, of course, Brandon Wenzel. Come back at you with my very first episode of my brand new series that I'm calling Concert Confessions, which is a series that I'm starting off. It is going to be part vlog, part advice column, part bitching occasionally about different things that take place in like the concert scene that I am, so frequently part of. But we'll get to that. Folks, it's not going to be a super simple format because I don't even know what the format's going to be. Probably a lot of rambling, but at least to start off, uh, I am doing it from my back room. I'm probably going to do most, if not all of these from the back room, unlike my sampler platter episodes. And while I'm doing all that, I got a Peter Can Thunderbolt poster behind me. I don't have the CDs over there anymore. I moved those, which ironically now it would be more appropriate. But on top of that, folks, I am wearing a super cool shirt. And folks, when I wear super cool shirts, I always like to highlight the super cool shirt. What super cool shirt am I wearing for you today, folks? Well, it happens to be my cold shirt, specifically my Year of the Spider anniversary shirt. I got this a little over a year ago now. And if you're unfamiliar with the band Cold, they are sometimes they're called post grunge, sometimes they're called new metal, sometimes they're called alternative rock. They're an awesome band that's been around for quite a long time. In fact, the lead singer, had been into music and stuff like that even as far back as the 80s, but really Cold kind of broke out that like very late 90s, early 2000s era, again with sort of the new metal scene. And it ties into this very first episode because this very first episode is going to be an actual concert confession of sorts because I'm going to be recounting this was my 166th show that I have attended, and Cold was a big part of it. So, let's get into it. As for the format, again, this is going to be a little free form until I get something down. But, so, the show, it was the 11th of April in 2024. It was out at the Bottom Lounge in Chicago. And the main headliners of the show were Cold and Orgy, who are both basically bands that kind of came up in that same time slot. Orgy was a little bit, I think they broke out a little bit before Cold did, but I honestly think Cold might have even been going before Orgy. But yeah, and I love Cold. That was the main reason why I was there. But I'd never seen Orgy perform, so I figured, They also had two openers, and we're going to kind of start just sequentially. Uh, I'm going to kind of go into a little bit, like, sort of segment it a little bit. First thing is just going to be the venue itself. I've been to the Bottom Lounge on a few occasions now. It is a very nice venue. I think the sound is really good, although it was a little bit off today compared to other times that I've been there. But I'd actually seen Cold about a year earlier at the same venue. It is a nice spot. My only point of contention with it is I'm never sure when I get there where I should be. Because, like, sometimes there's a line outside the door. Sometimes there's a line at the key, like like the desk basically that they have in front of the actual, like where the stage is and everything. And then and I don't know, because like sometimes there's VIP stuff, and I don't ever know. And the reality is that the nice thing about it, one of the nice things is like because it's like an actual like eating and drinking establishment as well, you can just go in and go to like a table if you don't want to wait outside. And ultimately, that's what I ended up doing in this instance because I did have prior experience, thankfully. But yeah, so the venue, like I said, it's a nice venue. I've never had any issues with it. I think it's a very cool spot. Uh, then, kind of moving on from that, I'm going to talk a little bit about the crowd and sort of the overall vibe of the show. And the crowd was really good. Like, Cold in particular, they tend to bring out really great people. And that was very much the case. Like, and Cold for not, and I don't mean this to be mean, Cold was never like a huge band. They did well for themselves, again, sort of in that late 90s, early 2000s pocket. in no small part thanks to the band Limp Bizkit and Fred Durst. They kind of helped them get their record deal and everything. But they had their run. But like man, like Cold always has such an awesome fan base, and they always come out in droves. So I believe the show was actually sold out, and just the folks in general were very cool. It was also awesome because I got to see a number of friends of mine. My friend Corey, who is actually in a local band called Chaos Ordinance, he was there, so that was really cool. Me and him got to chat for most of the show. My friend Christine, who me and her we just always end up at the same shows together, and that's literally how we became associated. She is an absolute sweetheart. Her and her fiance were there. Her fiance is he's a member of a band called Lockjaw, who I sadly haven't seen yet, but very cool people as well. And it's just cool when I get to, associate with those folks. But moving on from that, let's move into First Act. First Act is actually a band, well, not a band, but a artist out of Chicago called Ya Toyah, which apparently translates to "It's Just Me," which is appropriate because it literally was just this super badass kind of like cyberpunk style chick who went up on stage. She had a synthesizer, she had a guitar, she had a projector, like just the whole fucking thing. And she just, with the exception of the final song where she did go over there and have somebody come in and perform on guitar, she sang, she played guitar, she had the synths going. Super badass. Loved everything about what she was doing. Obviously I love live music anyway. I have a tremendous amount of respect for artists who can go up there as singular artists and still manage to get the crowd on their side. And she did a phenomenal job. Like, everybody was totally into what she was doing. And it was just really cool. How I am not aware of her, I guess it looks like she kind of started doing her stuff in like 2018. So maybe, just didn't get to her. But I really dug her set, so much so that I went over there. I got one of her albums, her latest one, I Am the Fire. And then I also got, oh no, don't do that. Also picked up a shirt. Oh no, it's inside out. And I was so happy because it looks, where's the thing? There it is. Looks like that. Come on now. Looks like that. I like the design. She had a few other ones, but this was the one that I was most into. And I was super happy because this was the very first date of this tour, which meant that they actually had all of the shirts in like the bigger sizes, which I was like, hooray, because that's not always the case. And trust me, that's something I tend to address or want to address in an eventual episode. But yeah, so Ya Toyah, loved her set, thought she was really cool. I got a couple of videos of her set. They are uploaded at the time I'm doing this video on my channel, in case you want to check that out. But I thought she was super cool. After everything was said and done, she was over by her merch booth. I got a few pictures with her, got her to sign the CD and stuff. Super lady, really, really hope to see her. She gets full marks for me. I thought she was super badass. Moving on. The next band up, one of the openers, is a band called Horizon Theory out of Michigan. Again, never heard of them. They started off, I wasn't 100% sure what to make of them. Because as I'm going through and as I'm watching the shows that are going on, and I'm not being a dick about it, but I'm kind of gauging, my enjoyment level of what the band is. Because there's kind of a tier structure. Because if I like a band enough, I'll take pictures. If I like a band enough, after that, I'll take video. If I like a band enough after that, I'll pick up a CD, so on and so forth. There's kind of a whole little thing to it. And when they first started performing, I was like, okay. Really didn't think that I was going to even get pictures of them. I was kind of like, on the fence about that. By the time the second song hit, I was super into it. Their first song wasn't bad or anything. I just didn't know what to do with it. It wasn't a bad song, but their second song really went over there, kind of amped things up, and I personally just felt had a better vibe. if it were me, and I'm just doofus McDoofus guy, I would, if I were them, I would start with that second song because the second song, again, I just thought it was fucking super badass. I love the energy of it, and it instantly turned me into a fan. Like, I was just super fucking wowed by it. I thought it was really cool. They have kind of a mix of styles. They have some clean vocals. They have some harsh vocals. They even do a little bit of some rapping vocals, a little bit, not a lot, but there was at least one song where they had that in there. So there's almost kind of a new metal element to them. I don't know what they personally classify themselves as, but I really dug it. Uh, the lead singer had great range. I really liked the artistry from the bassist and the guitarist. Like they were both very involved. And that's not to speak ill of the drummer. The only problem I did have in terms of stage setup for the bottom lounge is that they have like these big speaker setups hanging from the ceiling. If you are too far to one side or the stage of the other, you just can't see that part of the stage, and that's where their drummer was. I could not physically see him. But they went from being a band where I wasn't even sure I was going to get pictures to not only excuse me, drink. Not only did I get pictures, I got videos of a couple of their songs. Those are on the channel as well. And I even went over there. I picked up, boom, one of their CDs. Uh, this is the Astronomer EP. I got it signed by the bassist. I would have liked to have gotten it signed by the rest of the guys, but they were off doing other stuff. And we actually had a huge pain in the ass because it was all set up to pay for card and everything through their tablet. For whatever reason, the tablet didn't want to connect to the Wi-Fi. So by the time everything was said and done, it was like, I'm just gonna go. I'm not gonna look a gift horse in the mouth. But yeah, really enjoyed the guys. Stage presence was awesome. Well beyond what I would consider like just a basic opening band. Like they were really good. And I think they'd said they'd been doing it for about 2 years. You would not have known. Like these guys knew what the fuck they were doing. They put on a really good show. I highly recommend them. Again, kind of, do a little bit of research and everything. But again, they have sort of a combination of styles. I think they're really fucking cool. And Michigan, man, they just seem to be fucking killing it. There's been some really cool bands that I've run into recently out of Michigan. And I'm definitely considering Horizon Theory to be part of that. And I think that they were a great addition to this show. Like, with Ya Toyah, it made kind of perfect sense tying in with sort of Orgy because she had sort of like an industrial sort of synthwave kind of style. With Horizon Theory, they were much more just hardcore, just, high energy and everything. And that ended up working really well with Orgy also because, like, Orgy actually kind of brought that aspect too. But we'll get to that. Moving on to Cold. So I wasn't sure who was going to headline because Cold had, like, top billing on all of the promotional stuff and everything. But I believe that Orgy, this might have been like a thing for one of their albums. I forget exactly, like maybe it was one of the anniversaries, but I might be making that up in my head. From the way it sounded when I talked with one of the merch guys, basically it seems like they're going to trade off. Like one day Orgy will headline, then Cold will do the next, something like that. I don't know. But Cold ended up being the third band on the bill, which was a little bit weird for me because every other time that I've seen Cold, they've been the headliner. But Cold brought it, man. Like, genuinely, Cold, I feel, is one of the most, like, slept-on bands really to do it. Like, they're so good at what they do, and I think that part of that is just the stigma of their biggest hit, which is the song Stupid Girl, and I think that people kind of cast them as like that's their song, that's the band that they are. And it's just like, man, like if you go into their discography, I think Scooter Ward, who's the lead singer, I think he is a phenomenal lyricist and a phenomenal vocalist. And you are doing yourself an absolute disservice if that's all you're basing their work on. But going into it in this particular instance, one thing with Cold, I've like I said, I think I've seen them about 5 times now. I have not seen them once with the same incarnation of a band. There's always like at least one trade out because when the first time I saw them was when they'd come back from not having toured or really done much of anything for almost a decade. And originally you had Scooter Ward and Sam, the drummer, who were like the original members left in the band. All the other ones were, people who had filled in. And then eventually the two guitarists that they had left, uh, Sam eventually left, which left Scooter and the bassist Lindsay to go over there and be sort of the main core members. So they had a same drummer from the last time I'd seen him, but new guitarists again, which is fine, by the way. Like, that just is what it is. Touring musicians, is what it is. But they were fantastic. Like, I won't say this was my favorite showing that I've seen from Cold. I did really like it. I don't know what it was, but I talked with a couple other people, and they seem to agree. The vocals seem to be a little bit off compared to, again, some of the other instances. It just, because, like, one of the things I love about seeing Cold live is that they put a strong emphasis on making sure that the vocals are very, like, legible. Like, you can hear exactly what Scooter is presenting, which sometimes isn't the case with live bands. But even with that being the case, again, I just felt it was a little bit off. It was still a really cool fucking set, and one of the things that was really awesome about it was that they got in some deep cuts. They got some stuff from like their first, self-titled album, some things that I personally had never seen them perform before, and it was just really fucking cool. I did go over there and I did get some videos. I think about 4 or 5, something like that, from their set. Those are also going to be uploaded onto the show. I, of course, had to get some Cold merch. I got their live album, which is signed by all the band members, which is super cool. And, oh God. Yeah, come here, you. Of course, I had to go over there and get a shirt. Boom! I like this shirt. It's very cool. They had a few different shirt designs, one of which I already had anyway. And then the other two were good, but this one was my personal favorite. But Cold, for me, in terms of like if I'm giving them a grade or anything like that, again, maybe not my outright favorite performance of theirs, because I do just think there were a few audio issues. Otherwise, though, like in terms of the presentation, in terms of everything that the new guys brought to the band, plus Scooter, plus Lindsay, plus their drummer, it was a really good fucking Cold show. Like, and again, I love the set list. Only thing was, they were supposed to have like 3 more songs, but I think for time reasons they had to cut it. But excellent band, always a fun time. Moving on to the final band, Orgy. Now here's the thing with Orgy. I've never been that big of an Orgy fan. I know, weird. You look at me, you think this guy, he's got to be about the orgy. Clearly. When Orgy kind of kicked off and started gaining popularity, I was like just getting into the new metal stuff. And, they had like their version of Blue Monday, and then I didn't really kind of get into them as a band until the following album, where you had like Dreams in Digital and Opticon. That for me is still my favorite album of theirs, like far and away, way more than even Candy Ass, which is like the one that most people are associated with them. But I really, even at its peak, I never followed them. I was never like super into what they were doing. And then I think they kind of broke up at a certain point and then came back together. And really at this point, like the only like original member is the lead singer, which again is fine. Like that's actually the same thing for Cold and a lot of bands from that era, if I'm being honest. I didn't know what to make or what to think about, this whole thing. And ultimately what ended up being the case with the Orgy set was it was almost exactly what I expected, if a little bit different. I have to give them points for the energy that they put into it. I thought they really, like, for a guy, the lead singer, he's not, he's not old, but he's not young. Put a lot of energy into it, genuinely a really solid frontman. I thought that he did a really banging job. And honestly, everybody did a great job. I guess they had a couple of new recent kind of like fill-in people. They had a new guitarist who'd previously been the guitarist in Power Man 5000. I guess they had a new drummer as well. Again, touring musicians, that stuff is going to happen. The energy they put out, the show that they put out, was fantastic. Like, I had no problems with that. One of my friends, my friend Christine, did point out that she felt that again with them, the audio was kind of off. She felt like the music was loud, very, very, very at top volume. Didn't feel like the actual like the vocals were quite to that same extent, but I don't know. I kind of agree to that effect. But other than that, I mean, it was a great show in terms of what they were presenting, and they hit all the stuff that you would expect. They had Stitches, they had Blue Monday, which they finished up with. They even tagged in a little bit of a couple renditions. They had a Prodigy song that they played. They also had a little bit of a thing of Spin Me Around from Dead or Alive, which was kind of cool. And the thing for me with going to see them was it kind of was like the energy that they put out was unexpected. I didn't think that they would be that lively. That was really cool. But when it came to the actual like songs and stuff, it was very much what I expected, which was I probably know to any great degree a half dozen Orgy songs, and they played all of those. And when they played those, I was happy. And for the ones that I knew well enough, I sung along. I had a really good time. For everything else, I didn't care. And like, and I don't mean that as mean. Like, it was still cool, like the energy and everything. But it was just the first time I went to see Cold, I went in as a fan of the band, but not like a massive fan, if I'm honest. By the time I left, I was a much bigger fan of Cold. Like, to the extent where I went out and bought all their albums. Going into this, I was a fan of Orgy, but not a massive fan. Leaving the concert, I don't feel that I became a bigger fan of Orgy. It was one of those things where it's like, it was cool. I think that they fit well with Cold as as a co-headliner. I would have liked to have honestly seen Cold at the end of the set so that they maybe could have done their entire set list. But Orgy did a fine job. It didn't. It was at no fault of their own. It really was just one of those things where it's like, yeah, I like Orgy to an extent, and I enjoyed them to the extent that I like them already. And that's really what it came down to. But yeah, they were very cool. I actually ran into the lead singer after the show. He was kind of walking around, which was very cool of them, by the way. Cold did the same thing. They, even though they had a VIP thing, they were walking around and took pictures and stuff. But I ran into the lead singer of Orgy. He was taller than I expected. That's just a fun little note, I guess. But very nice guy. Took a picture with me and everything. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the overall summation of the show and all the stuff. And I know I've yammered on for quite a bit. But, I mean, my overall takeaway from the show, it was a very good show. Like, not upper tier, but there were some things that were pleasant surprises, like with the openers. I thought both the openers were really great. Even with the Cold set, again, getting some of those deep cuts, that was really fucking cool. Getting to see some of my friends was really awesome. The Orgy set was, again, not a critical turning point in my life as far as being an Orgy fan was concerned, but I did really love getting to, see them perform the songs that I really like. Like when they busted out Opticon, I was like, yes, fucking love Opticon. That's probably my favorite song of theirs. But in terms of the overall setup for the show and everything, genuinely, I think they chose great bands. I think Cold, like I said, I think Cold and Orgy are like a really good duo because Cold is a little bit, again, they've got that post-grunge thing. They like the clean lyrics for a lot of their stuff and everything. They can bust out a little bit of heaviness. Whereas Orgy, they've got that sort of kind of industrial, kind of dark wave kind of aspect to some of their stuff. But then they also really can just kind of get down with it and just put like a lot of heavy energy into stuff. And I really thought it was a really good time. This was like one of my big shows for me that like I'd been waiting for all year, and it didn't disappoint. It was a really good show. Any changes I would have made would have been strictly just for my own person. Again, I would have liked to have seen Cold headline it personally, but I didn't mind that Orgy did. And again, I thought they did a good job. And again, the openers I thought were fucking great. Like, in terms of times that I've seen Cold, And I don't mean this to be mean to any previous openers. These were definitely my favorite openers that I've seen perform with Cold. And that's just, comes down to just my personal preference. I like, anyway, I guess that's kind of the overall. Like I said, the overall summation of the show was it was a really fucking cool show, and the Bottom Lounge is a great venue. All the bands that perform were fantastic. Again, not in my upper stratosphere of shows, but definitely one that I'm going to look back on fondly. And I look forward to. I don't know. I'm not going to go over there and say that I'm going to go out of my way to see Orgy again. I think I've seen them once. I liked seeing them once. If they're on a show with another band that I'm there to see, I think that will kind of tie into that. It will be a nice thing to be there, but I don't know that I would personally aim for just another Orgy show. But again, so yeah, that's kind of my overall takeaway. I guess two questions have to be asked: would I do it again? Would I recommend it? Yeah, absolutely and absolutely. I think in terms of, again, just the overall presentation of the show, I thought was great. I thought all the bands were awesome. And yes, I realize I'm yammering and repeating shit. Remember, folks, this is a new format. I'm working on it. But in terms of, yeah, and just, if Cold wants to perform with Orgy again, I think that would be fantastic. And I think that if you're a fan of Cold, go see them live. They are absolutely worth it. If you're a fan of Orgy, go see them live. The crowd fucking loved Orgy. Like, the Orgy fans, the Orgites, if you will, were totally fucking down for it. They were eating it up, and it was so fucking cool to see. So, yes and yes in that regard. 5 things before I get out of here. Have yourself a great rest of your day, spectacular rest of your week, monumental rest of your month, stupendous rest of your folks. Go over there, have yourselves a truly